Imagine this for a second. You are sitting at the absolute pinnacle of the scientific world.
Right.
You're not just a researcher. You are, quote, one of the godfathers of the technology that is reshaping everything. You have more citations than anyone else on Google Scholar, a whole legacy.
Right.
You spent your life building the foundations of artificial intelligence, and then right when everyone expects you to take a victory lap, you break your silence, you step out,
Yeah.
but you're not there to celebrate. You're there to warn people.
And you use a word that scientists, especially at that level, they just don't use.
Exactly. You call the thing you helped create demonic.
It creates a real cognitive dissonance, doesn't it? I mean, we're used to hearing warnings about AI taking jobs or, disrupting economies.
Sure, the usual stuff.
But when a figure of this magnitude uses a word like demonic, it just shifts the entire conversation. It goes from the technical to the spiritual.
And that is the exact premise of the source material we are unpacking today. It's a text called Prophecy and the Rise of China's Demonic AGI.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Today we are doing something a little different. We are taking this very specific, very intense source text, and we're going to trace its internal logic. We're going to look at how the author connects the dots between AGI, the geopolitical rise of China, and the ancient prophecies in the book of Revelation.
And I think we need to be incredibly clear about our mission here right up front.
Yeah.
We're acting as reporters on this text. We're exploring the arguments, the connections this specific source makes.
Right.
We are not here to endorse the theology as absolute fact, and we are definitely not taking a political stance. We're here to answer a fascinating structural question the source poses. What if the end times aren't about chaos, but about a terrifying level of order?
That distinction is so key. And honestly, the hook for me wasn't just the theology, it was the messenger, this godfather figure. He's described as introverted, highly academic, not the kind of guy to stand on a soapbox. But the text highlights this deep sense of creator's guilt.
It really frames it as a modern Frankenstein moment. The source quotes him admitting, pretty bluntly, "I should have seen this coming much earlier."
Yeah, and he explicitly links himself to it. He's asked, is it fair to say that you're one of the reasons that this software exists? And the answer is just yes.
That's a heavy burden. And he says he failed to calculate the catastrophic risk. But what's interesting is he isn't afraid of the machine just becoming sentient in a sci-fi way. He's afraid of the race for control.
Right. He frames it as a zero-sum game. This race between the United States and China to be the first to release AGI, the thing he calls the demonic AI.
And that burden leads into that label. He's arguing that this specific race, and especially the Chinese strategy for AGI, aligns with a kind of spiritual darkening.
So he's not saying the code is literally a demon.
No, not in a biological sense. He's assigning a spiritual weight to the impact and the intent of that code.
Which brings us to the first big pillar of the source's argument, geography. I think for most people in the West, when you hear Bible prophecy, your mind immediately goes to the Middle East.
Israel, Iran, maybe Rome.
Yeah. But this source says we have a massive blind spot. The author asks, I do not know why we tend to forget about China and the East when we discuss the end times, even with the clear reference in the book of Revelation.
So he's calling out a kind of historical oversight.
So let's unpack that. What is the biblical basis he uses for pivoting the focus to China? Because, the East is a pretty big place.
It is. The source anchors this very heavily in Revelation 16.12. The verse describes the sixth angel pouring a vial on the river Euphrates to dry it up, specifically that the way of the kings of the East might be prepared.
And the Euphrates has always been that symbolic dividing line.
Traditionally, yes. The line between the biblical lands and the great powers of the Orient. The author's analysis is that this is a critical signpost.
The Kings of the East. It sounds almost like a fantasy novel title.
It does, but in this context, the source argues it implies a geopolitical power block. And it argues that this event in Revelation 16 happens just before Armageddon.
So the East plays a role near the climax of human history.
That's the argument. The source combines this with Matthew 24.27, where Jesus says, "For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west."
So directionality matters in Scripture. It's not just random.
Precisely. And the source adds a very important nuance here. It clarifies that the Bible is not saying the East is inherently evil.
Okay, that's important.
It's not saying any one nation is the Antichrist. The point is that the mechanism of the end times, the power base that drives that final climax, is prophesied to emerge from that direction.
And by a process of elimination, the source lands on China.
Right. If you look at the kings of the East through a modern lens of capability, who else could it be? The source argues China is the only nation in that hemisphere with the economic weight, military capacity, and, crucially, the technological ambition to influence global events on a biblical scale.
The source says China isn't just building technology, they're building systems.
And that's the perfect transition to the tech itself. The source draws a very hard line between AI and AGI. I feel like in the news, those terms get thrown around, interchangeably.
Yeah, AI is just the marketing buzzword for everything now.
But the source is very strict about this definition. It defines the AI we use today, Siri, ChatGPT, the algorithm that recommends your next video, as narrow AI.
It's a specialist.
It's brilliant, but it does one thing well. It predicts text. It recognizes a face. But AGI, artificial general intelligence, that's the holy grail everyone is chasing.
The generalist.
A system that can reason, learn, plan, and adapt across all domains. It doesn't just predict, it thinks. It strategizes. The source claims that achieving this is a confirmed, top-tier national strategy for China, backed by billions in funding and what it calls population-scale data.
That phrase, population-scale data, is one of those terms that sounds dry until you really think about what it means.
It means everyone.
It means training the machine on the behavior, the movement, the finances, the communications of 1.4 billion people.
And the source says AGI acts as a multiplier. If you have a surveillance state and you add narrow AI, you get a very efficient police force. If you add AGI, you get something else entirely.
You get omniscience.
Basically.
Yeah.
And this is the part of the text that really stopped me in my tracks. Because usually when we talk about the apocalypse, and you can blame Hollywood for this, we think of fire, asteroids, total anarchy.
You break down a society.
And the source argues the exact opposite. This is maybe the most profound insight in the text. It argues that the book of Revelation, especially the rise of the beast, doesn't describe chaos. Not at first. It describes a suffocating level of order.
Order enforced by a system.
Look at Revelation 13.7. It speaks of authority over all kindreds and tongues and nations. The source makes a logical point. You can't have administrative authority over every nation on earth if the world is on fire. You need infrastructure.
So the beast isn't a monster stomping through New York. The beast is a high-tech administration.
A global management system. The source lists the components China has already piloted. Advanced facial recognition, gait analysis.
Identifying you by how you walk.
By how you walk. Social credit scoring, digital currency. The argument is that these aren't separate technologies. They are the limbs of a single body.
And the AGI is the brain.
Precisely. The source paints this picture where the AGI integrates all of it. A human security guard gets tired. A human sensor might have a crisis of conscience.
But a machine doesn't blink.
A machine does not sleep, does not forget, and does not hesitate.
Yeah.
The source describes an automated tyranny. If the system decides you're non-compliant, the consequence is instantaneous. There is no appeal process with an algorithm.
That leads directly to one of the most infamous symbols in the Bible, the image of the beast. Growing up, I always heard this interpreted as a literal statue, like a golden idol in a temple that magically starts talking.
The traditional Sunday school interpretation, yeah. But the source applies a symbol-to-system translation. It argues that in a digital age, an image isn't a statue, it's code. It's an interface.
The text quotes Revelation 13.15 about giving life to the image.
And this is a crucial pivot in the argument. The source says giving life doesn't mean the machine gets a soul. It means it is given functioning authority.
Ah, okay.
If you hook an AI up to the power grid, the banking system, the police dispatch, and let it make autonomous decisions, you have given it life in a sociological sense. It is an animate actor in the world.
And it also says the image speaks.
Yes. The source connects this to modern avatars. Think about how we interact with AI now. It talks to us. In China, they already have AI news anchors and digital assistants issuing government reminders. We don't need to stretch our imagination to visualize a speaking image. We carry them in our pockets.
It's unnerving how neatly that fits. But the part that really freaks people out is the mark. Revelation 13.17. You can't buy or sell without it.
People always thought tattoos or microchips.
Right.
But the source suggests we look less at the shape of the mark and more at the function. The function is economic gating. No permission, no access.
And AGI is the only tool that could enforce that on a global scale.
Exactly. Doing that manually is a logistical nightmare. But for an AGI managing a centralized digital currency, it's trivial. A few lines of code. The source points to the rollout of central bank digital currencies.
Programmable money.
Programmable money. Your ability to spend it can be turned off based on your compliance. So if the algorithm flags you as a dissident, your digital wallet just freezes
You're at the checkout and it just says declined.
instantaneously. And not just for you, for anyone who tries to do business with you. The source says this efficiency is what makes it so dangerous. It's a bloodless persecution. You just turn off their access to the economy.
It's the ultimate cancellation. What strikes me about this whole argument is the psychology of it. We've been talking about the how, but the source spends a lot of time on the why. Why would people go along with this? It talks about worship.
This was the part that made me reflect the most. The source argues we need to redefine what worship actually looks like in the modern world. We think of it as, singing songs or kneeling down.
Religious ritual.
But the text says worship begins with dependence.
Dependence, that's a much lower bar.
Is it? If a system provides your safety, your food, your medical care, your economic stability, you trust it. You have to. Trust becomes dependence. And the source argues that absolute dependence is a form of devotion. It cites Revelation 13.3, where it says the world wondered after the beast.
Wondered, as in they were impressed.
They were awestruck. The source interprets this as amazement at the system's efficiency, who is like unto the beast. The argument is that people won't resist this system because they will love what it does for them. It solves messy problems. It reduces crime. It stabilizes the currency.
So the trap isn't that the system is scary. The trap is that the system is convenient.
Exactly. The source warns that the world doesn't resist what makes life easier. We click agree on terms and conditions every day. This system will be the ultimate terms of service agreement.
And that's the deception. The greatest deception won't look evil. It will look intelligent.
That is the core spiritual warning. The danger is a system that offers intelligence without God, order without Christ, and peace without repentance. If you can have a perfectly safe, efficient society, but the price is total digital allegiance, would you take it?
It's a heavy thought. We've painted a pretty bleak picture, a demonic AGI, a global surveillance state. What does the source say we're supposed to do with this information? Just panic?
Surprisingly, no. The source isn't Luddite. It doesn't say smash the computers. It emphasizes discernment over panic. It says, do not fear technology, but do not worship it.
It cites Luke 21.28, right? When these things begin to come to pass, then look up.
Yes, and it combines that with 1 Peter 5.8, be sober, be vigilant. The call to action is about awareness. It's about recognizing when a tool of utility crosses the line into an object of worship.
So it's about knowing what you're looking at. When you see news about a new data center or a digital ID, don't just see it as tech news.
Right, see it through the lens of this trajectory. The source warns believers to stay grounded in Scripture so they can spot the difference between what works and what is true. Because the efficiency of the beast system is going to be very, very seductive.
It's a lot to process. We started with a godfather of AI and ended up questioning our own dependence on convenience.
If we connect this back to the big picture, the source is asking us to shift our paradigm, to look at headlines about AGI and surveillance, not just as geopolitics, but as the potential fulfillment of a very ancient script.
From symbols to systems, that phrase is going to stick with me.
And remember the source's final haunting warning. The end times won't arrive with chaos. They will arrive with efficiency.
They will arrive with efficiency. It really forces you to reevaluate what we even consider progress.
It does. And again, just to bring us back to our role here, we've been exploring the logic presented in Prophecy and the Rise of China's Demonic AGI. We are impartial observers unpacking this worldview.
Absolutely. But regardless of your theology, the questions it raises about technology and control are relevant to everyone. It certainly makes you think twice about that little facial recognition icon on your phone.
It brings a whole new meaning to user compliance, doesn't it?
It really does. So, here is the final provocative thought the source leaves us with, and it's one for you, the listener, to mull over. Let's say a global system is rolled out tomorrow. It offers you perfect safety, perfect economic efficiency. It answers every problem you have. But it asks for your total digital allegiance in return. It asks you to trust it above everything else.
Would you be able to recognize the difference between a system that works and a system that owns you?
That's the question. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Stay curious.
And stay vigilant. We'll see you next time.